Job lost his kids, his wealth, and his health all in one day. No warning, no explanation. If you've ever felt like life blindsided you and you didn't know why, this is the story for you. Long before the strategy or tragedy, Job had everything. He wasn't just wealthy, he was one of the richest and respected men in the entire region. 10 children, 10,000 sheep, camels, oxen, donkeys, servants. Land that stretched farther than most kings owned in that era. But what made Job unusual wasn't just his wealth, it was his character. He was described as blameless and upright, a man who feared God and stayed away from evil. He wasn't performing, but he was watching, even in private moments. Think about that second where Job was introduced and the flawless hero or superhero he was. That detail matters because so many of us grow up believing that if we are not good enough, bad things simply would happen. And that's it. Here is another episode. And this happened. Not gradually, not warning, but at once. A messenger arrived out of breath and told Job that raiders had stolen his oxen and donkeys and killed the servants watching over them. Before Job could even process that, another messenger arrived with worse news. Fire had fallen from the sky and destroyed his sheep and the servants with them. He hadn't even finished hearing that report when the third messenger came. Raiding had stolen his karmas too. He killed these people. A massive wild wind had struck the house where all 10 of his children were gathered together, and the house collapsed. All of them were gone. A fourth messenger, four catastrophic losses, one after another, no space to breathe in between. This is one of the most brutal openings in ancient literature, and it happens in our lives too. But how we deal with it, it depends. Because it mirrors something real about how devastation can actually make us feel. It's rarely just one bad thing or another. Job had done nothing to invite this into his life. There was no lesson being taught here that made him to understand why he was undergoing all this calamity. And that was the problem. Job is suffering. Job's response to this novel and perfect condition in the moments of the entire story. He tore his robes, shaved his hair, and was in traditional expression of grief and fell to the ground to worship God. Not because he was pretending to be fine, but because even in the devastation, he chose not to turn his pain into blame. Do we turn our pain into blame? Do we let others look at us weird? Oh, not because he was pretending to be fine, but because even in the devastation, actually, he decided to turn his pain into worship. His own wife, watching him from afar, told him to curse God and just let himself die. Even the person closest to him had to run out because he thought there was no hope. This part of the story people rarely sit with long enough. Job wasn't holding it together. He wasn't offering inspirational quotes from his suffering. He was broken, sitting in ashes, feeling agony, emotionally gutted, watching everyone around him lose faith along with him. But he wasn't lost at all. If you've ever been in a season like that, where it feels like your body, your mind, your soul, your strength, your heart, the people around you, your family are all collapsing in one day, all at once. This is the same weight Job was carrying. Thousands of years, he did all of that. He carried all the weight. And the confrontation with friends was something really, really epic. Eventually, three of Job's friends heard what happened and came to sit with him. And for 7 days, they actually did the right thing. They just sat in silence with him because his suffering was too great for words. But then they started talking. They wanted to make everything worse. One by one, his friends insisted that Job was suffering because of a punishment for some hidden sin, that he was truly not innocent, and worse could even happen to Job. They pushed his idea that pain was always there. But then Job did not give in. And that was simply needed. Whatever he was going through, he wasn't hiding it because it was in the plain open. Job refused to accept it. He knew he hadn't done anything to deserve this, and he refused to lie about that just to make his friends more comfortable. This is such a familiar part. Even now, somebody's struggling. We often want to clean the explanation. It must be something they did, some decisions they made, some flaws they had. We try to terrify them to accept the wrong we think they have committed. But Job stood there without an explanation. His friends left him completely alone, fully alone. And here comes the divine encounter. After chapters of arguing and demanding answers, after asking why over and over again, Job finally gets a response. But it isn't the response he expected. God speaks to Job not with an explanation for his suffering, not with a tidy reason for why any of his happenings was happening. Instead, God responds with an overwhelming series of questions about the size and complexity of creation. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Do you know how the snow falls or where light is stored? It's not an answer. It's a reminder of how much Job and all of us simply cannot see or understand where we are standing. And somehow that was enough. Not because it was solved and the problem was gone, but because Job was met directly in the middle of his pain instead of being left to sit in silence forever. In the end, Job's fortunes were eventually restored, but it's not really the point of the story. The point is what happened in the space between the restoration, the part where he was allowed to grieve honestly, to question loudly and refuse to fake comfort, all the while he was holding on. He had to make sense out of what the Lord had told him. So Job's story isn't telling you to stop asking why,